right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fear the North. Hope you all are enjoying the music in the background via Sapphire. She's the one that chose this. I let her cook.
We need some Jesus up in this podcast. But let me not digress. Welcome, everybody, to our second episode of Fear the North. Lord have mercy. Irie, straight up, let me first say we want to send out positive energy to our podcast mate, Chris Murray. He's dealing with a serious family dynamic. We're going to just send out positive thoughts and prayers to him and his family. We miss you, brother. And Irie, it's always nice to see you.
Likewise, Sapphire. I've been looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to seeing your lovely smile and your rage of passion regarding the Browns and regarding this AFC North Division as a whole within this Tuesday night. Let's get to it. I'm so excited and can't wait to hear what you have to say per usual. Well, I will say before we dive in, we understand what's happening in the division. We know that the worst of the bunch is definitely the team we'll be talking about quite a bit, not only because of what happened on Sunday, but also because of the recent news regarding the trade of Amari Cooper. So I will just be the one to say we're going to do what we do best, but we're going to make sure we leave enough time to speak and dive into everything regarding the Browns, because that's quite a bit to speak on, and I know Sapphire is ready to cook up within that. So we're going to go through the rest of the division, and I think right now it's a good I think it's a good way to start the show off, especially when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know?
Yeah, I'm going to start with a little drama. The news broke today that, I can't even believe I'm going to say this. Russell Wilson is getting first team reps, right? So he's potentially in a position to start the game on Sunday. Let me be very clear, despise the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm not going to hate on the Pittsburgh Steelers because despite their offensive challenges, they are still figuring out ways to win the game. And they're still very much a contender in the AFC North with Baltimore Ravens at 4-2. I'm just curious, Irie, what are your thoughts on a potential QB change for the Steelers this week?
It's really interesting because it's so funny because the one thing that we always talk about carries this team, this culture is they know who they are, they know what they are, especially offensively. They're not the flashiest, they're not the kind of team that will be branded as dynamic, but they get the job done. And that's what that is what was happening with Justin Fields. Through the first 6 games of the season, he's completing around 66% of his passes, a little around 1,100 yards, only one interception, only one pick, and he accounted for 10 touchdowns, half of them in the air, half of them rushing. I don't see the why not to just keep him within that position. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it. But there is that commitment to Russell Wilson, and there is that thought process of what he brings to the game, especially mobility-wise, could benefit them to some sense. But it's just so, that's more of like an in-house kind of thing, right? Because then it's like you got this cohesion building up. You get your first win winning the first 3 games. You really don't want to mess us up as you look to be a playoff caliber team and maybe even make a deep run. So that's my thought on there right now at the moment after the news of Wilson potentially getting first team reps and potentially starting this Sunday. What about for you, Sapphire?
I mean, yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying. And look, I know 2024, the NFL is like a pass heavy league. Everybody wants to see, a lot of play action, bombs down the field, kind of like what Aaron Rodgers did right before halftime, right, of Monday night's game. There's something, I don't know how to put my finger on it, about Justin Fields. I followed him when he was a Buckeye, and he seemed to be more of a multi-dimensional type of player, right? And I know this is his first year in the Steelers system, right? I think the Steelers have made good decisions in terms of sticking with him. Sunday was a little different, though. Sunday, I almost felt like watching the game, I almost felt anxiety watching him. There's something about his passes in Sunday's game. They were just a little off or a little high, or I don't know. I don't know if I'm going too deep with this, but it wasn't a surprise to me that this announcement was made. Do I think the Steelers should start Justin Fields this week? Absolutely, because he still poses a run threat, right? And I don't know that Russell Wilson, especially at his age, with his injury history, can make the defense respect him like that, right? And you can have first reps one week, but where has his game time preparation been up to this? So I don't know. I hope that they start Justin, but you know, either way, I think the Steelers defense is going to help them win this game. I still say the Steelers are my sleeper for the AFC North, despite how the Baltimore Ravens are flaming. So those are kind of thoughts on Justin Fields. To your point, he was 58% passing on Sunday, but he also had almost 60 yards running, right?
Yeah, and that is a good point as well too. Just like you mentioned, you felt the anxiety for how some of his passes were looking and were delivered out of the pocket, and that was, as we saw, a reason for why they really turned to the run game right now. 180 rushing yards within the entire core, including him. They remain top 10 in the entire league in rushing yards per game. That is a valid point and it showed within their performance on Sunday. Now, what I do find funny, and to your other point regarding the defense, I do find it funny because like even though the Raiders jumped ahead with the lead, like Pittsburgh's, at least to me, just the way that my eyes were when watching the game, Pittsburgh's defense had them in the palm of their hand the entire time. They directed exactly how they wanted this game to play out, and the offense would catch up to at some point later. But there's a reason the Raiders could only score opening quarter and then later get some points in the last quarter. They couldn't do anything in crunch time when it mattered most to really keep up. This defense is culture. That's all I
Yes,
can
it
say
is.
right now. Culture.
Yes, it is. I mean,
Pat,
TJ,
everybody, man. Just a wonderful. I mean, this is. I just enjoy watching this defense thrive in that black and yellow. I really do. Gridiron, the epitome of this division, what we talk about. Thoughts on the defense and how they're
no,
really able to carry this team through the first 6 games of the season.
look, spot on. And of course, do we need to even talk about TJ Watt's 5 tackles? Right? He had 5 tackles, Deshaun Elliott 5, Peyton Wilson had 5, Joey Porter had 3. I mean, that is like the one thing that never changes about Pittsburgh, right? The culture of their defense, and they are going to help their team win games. I also just want to go back and touch real quick. Najee had 106 yards, right? Like, so that's nothing that can be walked over. It just seems to me like each week he's coming into himself.
Indeed, and first game with over 100 rushing yards since the season finale of last year. Just for a point right there too. Now we've seen worse droughts amongst other running backs, but it's good to see him getting back into that motion right now. And I do also just find it funny because we're talking about the run game right now while we're staying within the division. As thanks to you, we always speak within the sense of the matchups. We're talking about the Steelers run game and how great they were, but then you had the Steelers run defense that really made sure the Raiders run game was pretty much non-existent. 19 carries for 57 yards. However, when you talk about the Raiders, they had already played another team from this division in the Browns. And during that game, they went off for 152 rushing yards. Yet the Raiders are still within the bottom 10 rushing yards per game. Sapphire, thoughts on this?
I just need some Jesus. I mean, it is what it is. We're going to get to the Browns later, but
for sure,
this is to your point, how differently a team like the Steelers can dictate their will on another team. It's just I don't want to sound like a broken record. Like as bad or as choppy as Steelers nations may think their team is playing, they are right in the thick of it. They are figuring out how to win these games. I don't care if it's by a point. I don't care if it's by 2 points. It's all about the dub. And Pittsburgh, they still have it going on.
I agree. Now, last thing I wanted to ask about Pittsburgh before we move on. Could, within the quarterback sense, of course, the game management, yes, they're winning. Yes, the defense is thriving. The run game is coming into its own. However, as you said earlier, there is always going to be that element for airing the ball out. George Pickens, their top receiver, he's only had one game so far with over 100 receiving yards. It's kind of been in and out. You know, he hasn't caught as many of his targets as you would think, at least within the last 2 games. He's caught a combined 6 catches amongst 15 targets right now. Could we see a difference if Russell Wilson were the quarterback? Put everything else to the side, run game, defensive performance. Could we see a notch improvement if we see Russell Wilson in the pocket throwing the Pickens ahead of Sunday and further on the season?
I mean, in my mind, it depends. Everything depends on how the Steelers' O-line protects Russell Wilson, right? And how do you get there any other way than first reps, right? And practice. Like, we don't know what we don't know. As an individual athlete, absolutely, I think Russell Wilson can hit Pickens, right? I mean, if you look last week, he only had 8 targets, right? He was 3 of 53 for about 17.7 yards a catch. So clearly, you know, the Steelers probably have that on their radar to get him more touches. I mean, he's getting a little frustrated, and I would too. So my answer is, yeah. I mean, Wilson has the capability, but will his team give him the time to do that? And will he be able to move, right?
Right.
To look downfield to make those passes.
I understand. Valid points on that. You know, we talk about coaching, we talk about the Steelers being right now. However, even with their regular 4-2, they just happened to be tied with another team in the division, and that is the steaming hot Baltimore Ravens. Sapphire, you talked about this prior early on before we started recording and said they're just setting such a peak right now that has to be noticed and cannot be denied right now. They won their 4th straight game, 30-23 outing versus Washington. For those that didn't watch the game and thought it was a close game and only won by a touchdown, not entirely. Sapphire, what we have thoughts on that? What have you really seen right now from Baltimore within their 4th straight wins, Sapphire?
Look, for me, I'm old school. Listen, as much, again, as the NFL in 2024 is a passing game, a passing league, no doubt Baltimore is putting on clinics in terms of the importance of having a run game. Like, if you looked at, no matter what the Commanders did, no matter how many people they put in the box, they still had to keep their eyes on one King Henry, right? Which opened up the pass game, by the way. I just, as a Browns fan, I just fantasize that we'll get close to that level, man. Having a run game, a decent O-line, a couple of receivers, a tight end to throw the ball to. Oh, it's hard. It's hard for me, Irie.
I'm sorry. I really, really am. I know. I promise. That's why I said what I said earlier. We're going to get to that. It's like the pain, the rage, the passion is oozing. And I understand it completely. I promise we're going to get to that. Yeah. I promise.
Yes.
Even though, then again, we are talking about a team that was originally the Browns, so that doesn't help.
True that.
Better, So, but yes, I do agree with you on that. And also defensively too with the Ravens, you saw, we talk about those 2 sprinkles of like that, that single high, because you understand Daniels really likes to air it out. Could we see a bit more of that from the Ravens, or more so? I guess it was just really such a compliment to how they were able to adjust, ahead of who they knew they were going up against in the pocket, and seeing some of that single high out there within the secondary. Now it really, really made Daniels work for for his, right. Like that's also what I really took from the game as well. Not even so much the offense, because we know offensively they're going to get their points. Lamar's going to get his yards over 300, and Derrick Henry's going to do his thing in a run game. But defensively, how are they going to adjust to Daniels? You do that along with the 3 sacks. Even then, when he was on the ground, he couldn't get it. He couldn't do as much damage as he was doing before. 82 rush yards versus Cleveland, only 22 right now versus Baltimore. they adjusted so well to how they were going to game plan versus Daniels that even with the passing yards and a couple touchdowns, they did a terrific job in my eyes with how they really did, the game plan on Daniels.
Yes, and most importantly, the offense also took care of the ball. Did I see any turnovers, any fumbles? Listen, look at it. These numbers. Another 300 plus yard game for Lamar Jackson, right? When you look at Derrick Henry, I mean, my God, 24 of 100 and for 132 yards. Like, I just don't remember the last time a team performed offensively at that level for consecutive weeks. Like, they have the formula. They had to work through the first week or two, but they have it. And for me, regardless of the team that they face, until they are made to bend that knee, it's not broken. Don't fix it. Like, I think the Ravens are like almost at max peak already, and it's very early in the season. So for me, barring injury, I mean, I just think this could be a run that when we get in the divisional play between the Ravens and the Steelers, we're going to see some great football. He's working himself in. He's working himself in. So, I mean, I can't even think about the Ravens defense. My mouth was open. My jaw was on the ground when every time Lamar and Derrick Henry were out there on the gridiron, I just thought, what more can they say to you? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And along with what you're saying, yeah, the wonderful Chris Murray is in the building. We're happy that you're able to come and make time. Really appreciate you on that. You heard the lovely speaking points that Sapphire was making regarding Baltimore. If you want to make your way in, we know this is your team. This is your expertise area as well. We were just talking about the wonderful ball game that we had seen from Baltimore, in which they were able to go out there, adjust defensively to making Jaden Daniels, earn his own, along with doing well and keeping the ball from any turnovers in the air and on the ground. Thoughts on what you have seen, Chris, to piggyback off what Sapphire was saying in Baltimore's win over Washington this past week? All right, so we are unable to hear you at the moment, even though we have the audio right here. But
Yeah,
that's okay.
and I want to jump into this while he's queuing up. I mean, we talk about the importance of the run game and how it opens up the pass game. Did my eyes deceive me, or did Mr. Flowers have like 132 yards on Sunday?
I was just about to. I was just about to mention Zay Flowers and just the fact that what was also so impressive, Sapphire. He caught every single target, short, intermediate, deep. Did not matter. He must have had some kind of butterscotch taped to his gloves or something, the way he was able to catch any ball within his peripheral. And yes, going off for 132 rushing and receiving yards, including a deep of a 44-yard reception.
44 long.
Yeah, it was just very it was just impressive game overall offensively. Like, I'm trying not to go through the entire the stories to really describe what we saw from this Baltimore offense, but it's just impressive to see the way that they've been able to manhandle some of these teams and force adjust them to play their kind of ball.
That's right.
And that's what makes it even more devastating for the team from the 2-6 in a couple of weeks. But we'll get to that in a bit. I want to say that real quick, Chris. If you feel your audio is working, man, do you have any last thoughts before we move on to the other games?
Oh, darling, you're still on mute. I don't know what's going on, Chris. We love you. We love you. Get those technological bugs worked out. I wanted to go back to something you said about Zay Flowers. I mean, he had one more target than Pickens did, right? Compared to Pickens' 53 yards, he had 132 yards, like that 44-yard long. But don't forget about Bateman. He was 4 of 71 with 4 targets. Even Mark Andrews, I'm a huge get the tight end involved type fan, right?
Andrews, it's sad to see him not really produce right now the way that we expect him to. But we know at some point throughout the duration of the season that's going to happen.
Everybody ate, Irie.
Everybody ate.
Everybody ate. I mean, a girl could fantasize. Will the Cleveland Browns ever get it together?
One more team. One more team. I promise. You know what? Let's just get to it now. And Chris, we love you. We can't wait to hear you, my friend.
Well, let's dip into Cincinnati first. We're gonna save the worst for the last, right?
Yeah,
we have to give Cincinnati their props, right? They figured out how to win that game and stay relevant in the AFC North. I don't know what more to say about Joe Burrow, right? And you might as well throw Chase in there. There's something over the last couple of weeks, even though they lost that game last week, there's something that makes me feel like they're coming together as an offensive unit.
You know what it is? You know what it is? You know what it is, Sapphire? It was that anger building up from the fact that each of their losses were one possession losses, and they wanted to make sure they went out there and perfected the little things, and that is what earned them the win in the end. And it's funny because even though like this was a low scoring 17, to 3 game, and Cincinnati
17-7, yeah.
Yeah, and we know Chase Brown was the one with the game winning rushing touchdown in the end of the game. But it's funny because even then, this didn't feel like much of a defensive game to me. It felt like Cincinnati had it right there of how they won it. It just wasn't showing on the scoreboard. But at some point, it eventually would show in the way it was supposed to, And especially within New York, coming out there trying to do what they could without Malik Neighbors, that is, who was still out the injury. It was very interesting to see how they would adjust to everything. But, at some point, Cincinnati just had to say, you know what, we got to go out there and make it happen. And I really like the way that they went out there and just adjusted and showed, hey, that we're still a team to be reckoned with, even with this 2-4 record. We are not the worst in the division, that's for sure. And furthermore, they really turned to the run game a bit and kept it stabilized. I would have liked to have seen a bit more from their offensive line, though. Usually a bit more sturdy, but it wasn't that nice to see Burrow being sacked 4 times. What else did you feel you saw within the system?
I mean, I thought the game was going to be different when Burrow ripped that 47-yard touchdown run too, right? That was like different to see him show that side of his game. We know he can read defenses exceptionally well, right? We know he can throw the ball, but hello, world, welcome to Joe Burrow, who can also move, right? So again, I mean, to me, this low scoring game, it was more indicative of how I felt Cincinnati was figuring themselves out, especially with T. Higgins back, right? You got to adjust for that. I mean, I don't think that Cincinnati is out of the race at all. And I kind of, from a synergistic perspective, think I don't want to see my team perform at its peak early in the year either, right? That a team can overcome in-game challenges and win and overcome multiple losses, like you said, that were just, maybe a few points difference. That builds character, right? That builds trust, right? So, and we're getting ready to head into, division play. So what more motivation do the Cincinnati Bengals need than that?
I can't wait because we only had one division matchup so far this season. That was with Baltimore and Cincinnati. We have really already spoken about that. Down to the wire overtime game that was. I can't wait to see how I was looking ahead. Cincinnati playing a wonderful, wonderful team, a lovely team within the spot ahead of Sunday. None other than the Cleveland Browns. We're here, Sapphire. We did it. We got through the first 3 teams. We did it. We went through it. We got through the mud. It's on. The music is on. The music is on. You hear it. Rejoice. Don't force it.
So
let it come to you.
I was on LinkedIn earlier today and sent a message to someone that I greatly admire, who's in Cleveland media, has been a dominant force in the Cleveland media forever. And I just feel like the Browns need a techno-structural redesign. I mean, from ownership down to the equipment person, right?
Wow, the equipment person? Can you hear me now?
There you go. There's our guy, Chris Murphy. What's up?
Play the music. He will come to you.
Yeah, I had to go on my cell phone and everything. But here's the situation.
One door closes, another one opens. We are here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's ball.
But I got you guys are something else. I gotta say a lot of things regarding the Cleveland. You know, they traded, as you know, Amari Cooper was traded to the
Yeah.
Bills today. And right now, and it's interesting, Sapphire, that you talked about a cleansing, you know, a cleansing or an
Yes.
enema. I don't know. They need something. they, they they basically, the Browns have to basically sit down and say, you know what, we got to get rid of everybody. That means they can't. I don't know what they're going to do with Deshaun Watson's $96 million salary and all that. I just think, and I do think they got Kevin Stefanski's got to go. And I know I'm not a Cleveland fan. I'm not saying that because I'm a Ravens fan or that I support Baltimore but I have to be objective. And although I'm starting to say that about Nicky Sirianni in Philly, but we'll come to that bridge when we cross it.
Ooh.
But the thing is that watching that game and Irie, you were in the press box watching that
You're
game.
on the press box with me, baby.
Yeah, there was no watching that game Sunday. I don't think, but between the Eagles and the Browns, I think Cleveland had no clue of what kind of game plan what were they doing? I mean, it looked like they could have, the run game worked. Why didn't they stick with that? That worked a little bit. You know, Njoku, you had David Njoku. Why not give him the ball? Why not feed that guy? And and I'm not mad at him. I mean, I'm glad. Amari Cooper is probably thanking his lucky stars that he's out of there. Because I remember one time years ago, I saw a Phillies player. You know, when he got traded, he was at the press conference, and he basically said, this was years ago. Before the press conference started, he kind of mouthed, I am so bleeping glad I am out of here. I swear I've never seen that. All years I've been to press conferences, I've never seen anything like that. And I know somehow, Amari Cooper is doing some type of, like David Allen Greer on the episode of Martin when he was the Reverend Lonnie Love. Everything's gonna be all right, and going back and forth because he's out of that situation. The Bills will be a Super Bowl contender, which I'm kind of mad the Ravens didn't get him because while I like the Ravens receivers.
So real quick, Amari Cooper posted on his Instagram a black screen with white lettering that said "Move or Rust."
Oh, see, that's what that's what that is, though, man. I mean, that is basically the situation, and I'm sorry, but I'm not mad because watching that game, I don't blame Amari Cooper for being mad. They could have beat the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
It was a winnable game for you guys because on the other end of the field, the Eagles had another worst known enemy as their head coach. And so from that perspective, it's just, the Browns, and I'm up there thinking when we came into the season, the three of us, when we first met and everything, we came into the season, correct me if I'm wrong, we came into the season thinking this is going to be a tough division.
That's
the
right.
Browns are going to be tough. The Bengals and the Steelers. I still say it's going to be a tough division. I still say because I think that the Bengals believe that they're at least better than Pittsburgh and as good as Baltimore. And I think the Bengals are a better team than their record indicates. They're better than 2-4, in my opinion. And whatnot. They're a better team than 2-4. I just think that their coach over there, really needs to really get their weapons, and they do need a running game. But I'll say this though, the Bengals have a tendency of playing down to their competition. Like as motivated as they were against Baltimore and everything, I'm thinking to myself, they should be, this Giants team ought to be a team that that you can beat. You gotta beat the Giants. You can't let those guys, even think they're going to be in the game.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. You can't even let them think they're going to be in the, and because the Giants are horrible. and they got they got a good defense, but they have a bad quarterback. And if Daniel Jones was a brother, he wouldn't last that long. Not in New York. He would not last. He would not last that long in New York. It wasn't. I mean, heck, they ran Geno Smith out of town.
Deshaun is a brother, and he's lasting that long in Cleveland. But going back to your point with the Bengals, I mean, yes, I agree with everything you're saying, and they're only 2 games behind the Ravens and the Steelers. So they're right there. And, we look what they've got. I think they have the Browns. Aren't they home? Aren't they at the Browns next week, Irene?
The Bengals, yes. They come to Cleveland this coming Sunday. It's going to be quite the matchup because for a second it was looking like we would have 2 one-win teams going at it. But the Bengals said, hold my beer, and they said, we got 2. You got 1. So this will be quite the matchup at Sunday. I can only imagine what Paul Brown is thinking upstairs.
Absolutely. So they've got the Browns Sunday, but after that, they have Philly, Chris. So, this is still a kind of dynamic phase of the season, I think, for the Bengals. And I still think they're not out of it yet. I mean, they really saved themselves.
The Bengals are no way out of it.
Yeah.
Against Philly, that's a winnable game because Philly, I'm still not sold on. Philly had a good, the thing about it is easy to have a good defense against a team that didn't feel like playing. Let's break that down, right? It's easy to have a good performance. They had 5 sacks of Deshaun Watson because that team has no clue. They're a rudderless football team, right? In this situation, I don't know if the Philly secondary can stop T. Higgins, Jamar Hicks,
and at Cincy. That's an away game for the Eagles.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you with that. And by the way, let me just chime in here. We have the boss man, Mr. Willie Epting Jr., chiming in on what you're saying there, by the way.
Yeah. And that's how I look at this thing. Now, I want to say, because you all asked me something on the Ravens. I have a lot to say about the Ravens. But but looking at Cincinnati, Cincinnati might be a running game and a coach who doesn't overthink the game away, because they should have beat Baltimore. Let's be honest. They should have beat Baltimore, and they got conservative because good Lord, Joe Burrow threw an interception late in that game. I don't know. They were killing them. And coaches, and Willie, if you're out there, coaches overthink games. Coaches overthink football. And Jim Harbaugh, I've seen John Harbaugh do it. I've seen Jim Harbaugh do it. I've seen Andy Reid do it. There are times when you just have to make the basic play, or if you know that you have been killing, like the Bengals last week, killing the Ravens in the air. And I'm thinking to myself, because the weird part of me, my fandom can kind of get away from if I'm playing somebody, what I would do if I'm on the other side. You always have to think, what will the other side do to you? And in that situation, when you have that defense all day on the ropes, you need to keep punching. And I don't know why they didn't do that. As a Ravens fan, I'm happy. I'm happy I can watch reruns of my favorite team. I can be happy. But I know football enough to know that when you got, and I know boxing, did somebody say bench Justin?
Yep. Did hashtag here we go really bench Justin? Relating to our earlier topic regarding the Steelers allegedly benching Justin Fields, which we felt was interesting. Before going further on the Browns, did you have any thoughts on that, Chris, regarding the news of Russell Wilson taking first team reps and what that could mean for this offense and the team going forward?
Well, I think it's bad for Justin Fields' development, but I understand it in the sense that Russell Wilson does look to pass first before running.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson is still a passing quarterback and still a veteran quarterback in his league. I don't know how much, firepower he has left. I understand it, but Russell Wilson made, well, how many more years does he have left? Maybe 2, 3,
Yeah.
if that.
Possibly around that.
And at some point, you're going to have to get Justin Fields. And I'm going to say this, and y'all may disagree with me. I don't think Justin Fields has had a fair shot with the offensive coaching staff that truly dedicated to him and whatnot.
Wait, how are you defining fair?
Fair in the sense that he's never had a good stability of he's never had the stability over a coaching staff that was fully invested in him. He comes to Pittsburgh as kind of a backup for Russell Wilson until Russell Wilson to retire. And I think the Chicago Bears coaching staff didn't know how to coach him, didn't know, how to adjust what they do to, and he's had a couple of coaching staff. So I think sometimes you got to be in a good situation, is what I'm saying. Y'all may disagree with that.
I don't know that I disagree, but I would say this. I mean, he's not a rookie anymore.
Right.
He's a professional NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how much can we say is attributable to his lack of progress versus him integrating with a new offensive scheme, right? And being able to adapt to it.
Right.
Like I watched that game Sunday, Chris. Honestly, he look, I still am saying the Steelers are my sleeper. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there was something different about Sunday's game. Justin Fields looked, I don't know, he looked nervous. He just didn't seem like he was settled in. I saw a number of his passes were hot, and I thought he bailed a couple of times on reads, right? And ran versus just sticking in there and letting the game come to him. And I don't know what that is. I'm not a Steelers fan. By the way, did I say I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
So I mean, for me, and I got to agree with George Bendicky here. Leave Fields in. What the F would switch quarterbacks when you are 4-2? At 1-5, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Thank you, George, for bringing the Browns back.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree with George in that situation, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
But the thing about it, and maybe Mike Tomlin is trying to see what they get in Russell Wilson, because maybe Mike Tomlin believes that the Steelers could be a true contender and whatnot. Remember, we're only in 6 games into the season.
We are.
And he still would like to have a quarterback. Although I have to say, Mike Tomlin, as I whisper curse words under my breath, has always figured out a way to stick it to the Ravens and whatnot. But I still think that, I don't know. I don't know the Pittsburgh situation. I've seen flashes of brilliance from Justin Fields, but I don't know. I guess what happened because I think Russell Wilson is looking over his shoulder and all that. Some guys don't respond to another guy. Not that sort of uncertainty of not really being the guy. I mean, that's how I look at it. But maybe in a situation when if he was that guy, I don't know. Some guys perform better when they're not subject, when they are the guy and there's no uncertainty about that. Just saying. I mean, I've seen that, on more than one occasion, but I don't know. I mean, but I do think that maybe Tomlin feels that, that Russell Wilson can get it done, because Russell Wilson's a veteran passer. Russell Wilson's more of a passer than he is, than he is a runner at this stage in his career. Russell will get that ball downfield, more so than Fields, perhaps.
Right. All right. So let me ask both of you, in terms of that, how much of this decision do you think had anything to do with the fact that their next opponent, I believe, is the Jets, right?
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we know, I don't know how quickly Devontae is going to be able to get into the rotation, but how much of this chatter and how much of this move to start, giving Russell first team reps you think is attributable to the next two games? They have the Jets and the Giants before their bye week.
Irie, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, it's a fair thought because, or not so much the Giants right now, as we're still awaiting the return of Malik Neighbors. When you think about the Jets, at least with Devontae Adams, you're thinking high flying in through the air, points on the board, dynamic, keeping the wheels turning, and instead of the Steelers staying within their cultural sense of, hey, we know our brand of football, we're gonna let our defense dominate and catch up with offensively and go from there. Could this be a turn of the time in which they're saying we want to stay up with the offense? Is that where you're coming from, Sapphire? To seeing where if the Jets can find a way to really get the offense going, the Steelers want to stay there and be ahead within like an offensive shootout? Is that kind of where you're coming from with it, or?
I think just from the perspective of being able to throw down the field, which with respect, Justin has not shown me he's capable of doing that with accuracy. Right now, all since Sunday, all of the buzz, it's all been about, is Devontae really going to get to New York? He clearly is going. There's a love fest, and they have these commercials with, little snippets of him and Rodgers, whatever that bromance stuff is. I'm just curious because, Mike Tomlin is a strategic coach as well. Is that legit happening, or could this be something to give the Jets something else to think about? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and furthermore, the Jets' pass defense has been pretty good as well too. They are second right now in the league, giving up just a little bit under 150 a game. So yeah, there could be a mental side to that as well too, knowing that they're allegedly they'd be plugging in somebody who can really throw it downfield. But as mentioned earlier, especially what Chris was saying too, and what I said earlier on the show, like there's no sense in really breaking up that cohesion that's already there, regardless of who they're going up against, because Steeler football is no matter who we have in front of us, we're going to play our brand of football, and it's worked for years. That's why they've been able to continue to make the playoffs. What do I say? The Steelers are the ant that you step on multiple times, walk away, you turn around, see it's still crawling, and you say, how is it still alive?
That sounds like a line from, you're too young to remember Bebe's Kids, but there was a line in there that said, we don't die, we multiply. Okay?
Oh
yes, the great Robin Harris. I don't know.
There you go.
But
there you go.
But see, to go to Irie's point, see, here's the thing. If the Jets bring in Devontae Adams, first of all, it's not going to take them that long because, Devontae Adams, has a chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, and like I said, I saw enough of that, in the NFC, watching those two guys play, and when they were in Green Bay, and so from that perspective, that's going to be interesting, and I think maybe Mike Tomlin wants to see how much Russell Wilson has left in the tank, because Russell Wilson looks downfield, is probably more of an accurate passer than Justin Fields, if Father Time has not creeped into Russell Wilson, and that's a huge if. But if the game evolved, because even shootouts can happen between two defensive teams. I've seen that too much in my lifetime as a football fan and whatnot. And, as far as I'm concerned, I do think somebody said sounds like Cowboys. Willie says it's kind of like Cowboys.
You do. Because what I'm thinking too is not only is it just sort of like a red herring, but could it be that we potentially see the Steelers play two quarterbacks on Sunday? Two quarterbacks 2 weeks from now?
That's a possibility. It's been tried in the history of the game. But at the same time, I wonder what Russell has left. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Russell Wilson has left. I don't know is he over the trauma of being around Sean Payton, although Sean Payton got to it with Bo Nix. I want to know what Russell will. I would like to see what Russell Wilson has, because as a Ravens fan, do I have to be worried and whatnot that Russell? Because I like Russell Wilson. I'm a huge Russell Wilson. It's one of those things when the Steelers are like, yeah, the Steelers are annoying. The Steelers are that junkyard dog that you say, come on, dog, get away. And it just keeps coming at you, keep biting you around.
That's culture.
Yeah,
That's dictating your will. You got to respect that.
I do respect that. I absolutely respect that. I respect Mike Tomlin. I respect the heck out of Mike, because Mike Tomlin and there were the last few years he's been getting a lot of criticism in Pittsburgh. He has been getting his share of criticism in Pittsburgh, and that guy still, and I like the fact, and that's why I like the Roonies, because the Roonies are the last of the true football people in this league. There are no more. All these guys are corporate tycoons. The Roonies are the last, what I call, of the sportsmen, owners.
Dying breed.
They're the last of that people whose business is football. Not, I own 7,000 oil fields, and I know I can manage a football team. That kind of thing. Vegas. I know more than the Jimmy Johnson. I just want my picture everywhere, because that's the thing that's holding back, quote unquote, America's team. But we ain't talking about America's team today. Right. But the thing about it though, I like Mike Tomlin's teams. I like the grittiness and toughness, and and the thing is, and let's be honest, Browns fans and Bengals fans and even Ravens fans.
We're gonna get to it with the Browns in a second. We're gonna get to it. I can't wait. Go ahead, Will, please.
No, but what I'm saying is, we want the Steelers to be good, because when the Steelers are good, that's when our visceral hate comes out the most. That's when we come out and say that, you know what, I can't stand those guys. I can't stand that terrible towel and whatnot.
Man. They lit up last week. That's all I saw. That's all yellow. I think I woke up and went to bed and woke up. I was waving my virtual terrible towel. Like, to have that kind of fandom, right? And unlike the team we're gonna talk about, the organization gets it. They get it. The fans do their part, and that organization does theirs. Is that too much to ask for, gentlemen? Is that too much to ask for?
It's not. And I think that is a lovely way to segue to maybe the last time of the show. Sapphire, turn the music on.
Oh, you want the music? Wait a minute. I think here we go. How about this one?
All right, yeah, we'll let it cook. All right, yeah. Why
no
not?
Chance.
Not
no
so
chance.
Oh.
No chance. Listen, I caught Coach.
I thought you were gonna come with da 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 da.
We already played the angelic music. Okay, you have to bring us back to reality. Okay. Oh man, tap it out. I'm talking octagon, tap it out. Like,
tap out.
I never thought I would live long enough to see what I am seeing with the Cleveland Browns, right?
That's right here. Let's cook, Sapphire, cook.
Born in 1946, the Jim Kellys, right? The Jim Browns, right? Like, we could go through the decades. I listened to Coach Stefanski's presser on Monday. The man first of all, he was very late. So I was getting a ton of texts. Did the Browns fire him? Did they finally get rid of him? And I'm like, I don't know. But listening to him, he sounded very nervous. And I think, Irie, I'm going to let you speak to this, what your gut instinct was at the Phillies game. But it just seems like there's something more that is potentially going to happen with this organization other than what we saw today in the trade with the Amari Cooper.
There is. Man, oh man. I can't wait to hear what everybody has to say about this. I'm going to do my best to keep it simple. Chris, you mentioned earlier the Amari Cooper trade. I know we're going to get to that in impact this has on this team and what he brings with them that this team will miss out on. We're going to get to, everything else within, the coaching staff. So I'm going to keep it simple with the little things that tie into Sunday's game as well and what I saw. Okay. Number one, it is not a good look when your kicker and Dustin Hopkins has more points himself with 10 made field goals compared to points the offense has with 7 touchdowns this season. It's not a good look defensively. It's not a good look when Philadelphia's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who are returning from hamstring and hamstring injury and a concussion, saying they expected the tight man coverage and wanted the ball, and they delivered with multiple touchdowns and big plays. It is not, I repeat, it is not a good look when you're returning to bad habits and making wide receivers running backs, especially on a 3rd and 1, a pivotal 3rd and 1, when you're making Cedric Tillman the running back within the jet sweep, when all you need is 1 yard gain for a first down to keep the series alive. Why does that go back to last year when they did the same thing with Elijah Moore? Week 1, good 19-yard game versus Cincinnati. Keep it repetitive. Week 4, negative 20-yard game versus Baltimore. Stop making wide receivers and running backs. And the last point that I will keep from now, okay? The very last one. Last one, okay? Just for now, though. I'm just telling you guys that because we're only cooking for the moment. You mean like that? I'm just building up. We just get into it. All right, we're just getting to it. The last one. It is not a good look when, and this is only just within the Cincinnati right now. It's not a good look when the higher management of the Browns, Andrew Berry and company, are showing up in the press box. Presence alone is enough for people to turn around and see 6 weeks into the season. I expect to see the higher management in the press box later on in the season, later on week 15, week 17. Not that early. That alone lets you know something was gonna happen, and it's usually not bad. I do not mean to compare them to the sign of death and that was somebody walking around with a black robe on and I'm not trying to compare it to that sense, but it is not a good look. So exactly, Chris, exactly. So I will keep it to that right now. More points, more thoughts will come about, but that is that for the moment. What did you two see in that game versus Philadelphia in that loss that was to Philadelphia? And we'll tie that into the thoughts on the Amari Cooper trade. But first, thoughts from Sunday's game, the Browns' performance offensively and defensively.
What you want me to start first, or Sapphire? You want to
No,
go?
I need to continue to do deep breathing exercises right now.
Okay, all right. What I saw was a team that had no clue of what they wanted to do. And against the Eagles team that has given up a lot of yards, gave up yards to Tampa Bay and couldn't stop anybody. Couldn't stop Green Bay early in the season, though the Eagles won the game. I mean, they let Kirk Cousins drive the length of the field for a winning touchdown. As far as I'm concerned and everything, this, looking from the Browns' perspective, Irie, that was a winnable game for them. The Eagles didn't do much offensively, really, and they did enough to win. And because the Eagles had still not scored a touchdown in the first quarter all year. Nick Sirianni is out trying to fight Philadelphia fans and argue with them and all this other stuff. And,
come on, Chris, it's South Philly. You know how we get down in South Philly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it was ridiculous because there was a point. It was a point in the first half where I heard fans say, "Fire Nick, fire Nick," and I'm saying to myself, I'm watching all this, and then I'm going to post, and Irie, you were there. He is, first of all, Nick Sirianni has kids there, and I don't want to get into that because that's just, and then he was like banging on the podium like he was Nikita Khrushchev at the United Nations in the 1950s. Like he was banging his shoe. I mean, and he had his kids there. And you know, when people bring their kids to press conferences, you know, it's a distraction because they don't want to deflect, answer questions. But
well, except when you're Fisa Collins for the Minnesota Lynx, okay? Just saying. But I digress. I digress.
Yeah, no, and I digress too. Because in other words, the Eagles are another team that have some interesting challenges that the Browns should have and could have exploited, but they didn't. And because they didn't, that team looked like, I mean, Kevin Stefanski should have been nervous because I would have been nervous if my team was playing that lackluster. And Deshaun Watson is acting like he don't want to be. Deshaun Watson don't want to be there either. I'm not gonna say where he'd rather be, but the thing is, he would rather be somewhere chilling, drinking, drinking Uncle Nearest or something, rather than be there. The guys who, kudos to Myles Garrett for just blocking that punt, blocking that field goal attempt, and enabling Rodney McLeod to score that touchdown. That was their offense. They got more yards on that play than the entire, offense got in the entire game. They had some good running plays that they didn't follow up with their running backs. Irie, tell me if I'm wrong and whatnot.
Keep going.
Yeah, Tell me if I'm wrong. And the thing about it, David Njoku, why not use your tight end? He's the guy on that team. And Amari Cooper, I think Amari Cooper in his mind had already quit and whatnot. I mean, everybody on that team is demoralized. And I think at the end of the day, that's why the coach should be fired. Either the coach should be fired, or the coach should be fired, and they should just do a fire sale, start all over again. Maybe keep Myles Garrett or somebody like that, but start off all over again and just do this because they're not going to win. They're not going to win with this team. And then too, I think the motivation of this team is down. I think that they've not tried to maximize any of Deshaun Watson's abilities. They've not tried to maximize any of the other weapons that they have. I think, to be honest, tell me from again. I think that, and quite frankly, I think that team has either quit or has already quit on this team.
I'm going to say ... on the coaching staff.
Right, on the coaching staff.
Their offensive vision, right? I'll say this about my perception of Coach Stefanski. I actually gained more respect for him in this week's presser than I ever have, because to me it sounded like he had committed to going down with the troops. I don't think this can be fixed either. And I don't know if it's the, Dorsey offense. I don't know if it's, because y'all, you remember me the last couple years about Stefanski, right? You can make anybody look good on paper. I don't care about stats. I care about performance. And they have pretty much tarred and feathered Deshaun Watson. They want him benched. The majority of fans feel like, he is the reason why this team is not performing to expectation. I don't understand. And, I'm still shell-shocked from last week, seeing that game last week in DC. I don't understand either why they don't use the tight end, right? I don't know what the Browns' offensive identity is. My heart goes out to the Myles Garretts of the team. I get concerned that there may be a conversation about releasing him to a team just so he can get a taste, a legitimate run for a championship. I have all kinds of things going on in my mind because I'm so beaten down by this organization, right? Browns Nation is going to stay true. We're going to support our team, but this is like swallowing hot, molten coals week in and week out. And I just don't know how much more I could take. I don't know many more games I can watch them play like this. It's terrible. It's like messing with my mental, right?
Oh, man. Oh, my God.
It is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was going to say, I thought it was like messing with your money.
No, that was last week. Remember that was last week down in DC, right?
That was
so they don't mess with your money.
And my mental.
And
I'm so
your
sorry.
mentals, man.
Double-
That's
double whammy. Yeah.
that's brutal, man.
To piggyback off of that with this further within us, what I had seen just from Sunday to Tuesday 2 p.m. before the trade, because we'll talk about the trade in a minute. But yeah, from that press box, and Chris and I were talking about it as well with Gary Cobb at halftime. Just about what we were seeing, and that was an offense that was quite unsure of themselves. And it sucks because they really didn't find any kind of connection or cohesion until what was eventually their last series of the game. 57 yards traveling downfield through 9 plays in 4 minutes. Sean Watson had 168 total pass yards in the game. 82 of those pass yards came during that last drive alone. And that drive just came down to little things. They went from being 3 yards away from the end zone to multiple false starts plays, and then an incomplete pass pushes them back even further, into which they settle for the field goal. Now there's already debate regarding if they should have gone for it or not, or should have been a field goal. But honestly, personally for me, I was tired to even go into that kind of debate, because at this point it's like what difference does it make? What does it even matter right now regarding this team? Defensively, they have not played up to par right now compared to the defense that was praised as the best in the league right now. And I'm not trying to make any excuses. They should play better. We expect better. They're not the most injury play, within the offense versus defense or even special teams. However, there is a case to be said regarding this defense and their performance being due to the fact that the offense, they don't hold on to the ball very long. Multiple upon multiple quick 3 and outs, so where the defense, after however long they were out, have to go back out there, to the point where the longer they're out there, it wears them down. That's really, I feel, a big attribute to what's happening. And then it gets to the point where the defense is out there thinking, dang, we have to take this game. We have to take matters into our hands. And then that leads to the terrific play Myles Garrett has, in which he blocks a field goal, like Chris mentioned earlier. Ryan McLeod picks it up and takes it back. And might I mention, because of after Amari Cooper's departure from the team, him being traded and stuff, and putting aside the passing, you want to talk about scoring touchdowns? Rodney McLeod now leads the team in touchdowns scored with 2.
My mental.
Both of them off a fumble and then a blocked field goal. The only other players who have done that was Jerome Ford with a rushing touchdown, Deshaun Watson with the rushing touchdown. That is it.
That is pathetic. That is the highlight of pathetic. And at the end of the day, see, my thing is, you know what? If guys don't care, they need to fire the coach in the middle of the season and just say, look, as a signal to the players, if you don't act like y'all got any sense of heart or any sense of, wanting to be here, you have one of the best jobs in the world and whatnot. Like I say, with these guys making about 15 minutes might be my 2-week salary. Okay.
Hello.
And so from that standpoint, I'm just saying, from that standpoint, because it's not just the coaches, the players, somebody's got to get mad at somebody on that team. Somebody, because I know, in my lifetime, in my very brief, if you blink, you might have missed it. You might have missed it. In my brief athletic career, I used to get mad when we lost the game. My mother could not deal with me when I came home. We lost the game.
But would you not agree? But would you not agree that starts with the coach? Like let's really have that conversation. Do you think this would be happening on Mike Tomlin's watch?
No, it would not happen under. But you know what though? You got stand-up guys in Myles Garrett. See, that's the thing that I'm wondering about. Why aren't stand-up guys on that team saying, look, pulling people aside? Because the coach, the coach ain't throwing the ball for him. The coach ain't throwing the blocks. They're not doing the spin moves on the pass rush. The coach is not doing that. You got to decide for yourself. You know what? Even if we have a losing season, I'm gonna still give it my best effort. That's what you got to do. And you can't just, because if I were a player on that team, I'd be mad. I'd be like, look, man, we got to take this, and see, when the players aren't, man, then you're breeding mediocrity. That's not a winning culture. That is not a winning culture in there because the players. You think Ray Lewis would let his teams get down like that with the Ravens back in the day? Heck no, and whatnot. I remember even Bengals teams, from past and all those things. They had guys like they had guys in the past like Reggie Williams and whatnot, guys who were on that team and were stand-up guys.
Yeah.
There were a lot of guys who were stand-up guys on these teams. And see, part of it, man, the players got to be mad. Heck, I would be happy if the players would be mad at the coaching staff and whatnot.
Right, but when you talk about Myles Garrett and why is that not happening? We don't know that it's not. But I say this, my eyes are also on, and Irie, help me if I'm not calculating this right. He signed a 5-year contract. Was it 20 or 21? And is he not? I think next season will be the last year of that contract. So if my timeline is right, Myles may already be looking like, look, I got one more full season left here, right? And he's in a position to say to the organization, and I am not a representative of Myles Garrett. I just play one on television. He's in a position to tell the organization, look, I need to see what your real commitment is to getting us that ring. Right. And if he's not feeling it, look, Browns Nation may be looking at losing MG. I'm just saying, the product that they are putting out on this gridiron is garbage. Okay? You're asking fans to pay a lot of money to be in attendance, to buy the merchandise, the food, the drink, outside, the watch parties, the restaurants. You're asking, you have that commitment from the fans. What is this organization's real commitment?
It's a factory of sadness. It really is. It's not good right now. It's not at least for me personally. I can only speak for me. I was biting my tongue each time when wanting to say that this is a bad football team in front of us. I just wanted to wait. Another game or two, and then it became 3. And just at a point, especially this past week, where it just was like, enough is enough. This is a bad football team on the gridiron right now. This is, the conversation within the worst football team in the league. And that's far beyond the expectations that I think any of us had. But that's also why off-season, preseason, training camp, whatever they say or tweet doesn't mean anything. It's all about what we see on the gridiron week 1 and further on. What we have right now is not a good team. And because it's not a good team, then comes the moves from the higher-ups. And one of the moves recently made, as we spoke about earlier, was the trade with Amari Cooper. That is a trade that happened middle of the day. I don't know where you guys were when it happened, but that was quite the lunch bombshell. The Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns agreed to the following trade. The Browns received a 3rd-round pick for next year's draft and a 7th-round pick within the 2026 NFL draft, while the Bills received Amari Cooper and a 6th-round pick for next year. So multiple draft picks, within this dealing right now. But just the fact that Amari Cooper, somebody who just set his own career high with 1,250 receiving yards, impressive season catching passes from 4 different quarterbacks. That was somebody who played in pivotal part within this team making the run that they did last year into the playoffs. And furthermore, might I cap on, he was the one who did set the franchise record with 265 receiving yards, single game receiving record previously held by Josh Gordon originally. Then he broke it. Also became the 2nd player in NFL history to have a 200-yard game with 3 different teams as well. It was just historical overall. And now he has gone 6 weeks into the season to Buffalo.
And 5-time Pro Bowler.
5-time Pro Bowler.
I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we 100% right on that. Yeah, exactly. Multi-time Pro Bowler should have some All-Pro selections in there as well. But that man, sadly, is gone. He was traded today. Thoughts on that? Why he was traded? What this team will be missing out on with him? What they could gain without him on his roster? Immediate thoughts regarding this.
I mean, for me, they should have traded him in preseason when they declined to pay him. I mean, you give Judy that money, like it's business. It is not personal. It is business. They didn't want to invest in him. Okay, trade him then, right? At least we got a third round pick in next year's draft, right? Because after Mr. Barry and Stefanski go on to Yonda, okay, the next regime at least has that minimum to work with. There are a lot of players that have been paid good money. This last year or two signed huge deals. I mean, Jack Conklin a couple years ago. I think he got some PT in on Sunday, but how long has he been out, right? You look at the age of these players. Like, I started off by saying the Browns are looking at a complete techno-structural redesign. I'm sticking by that. Like, this is a hot mess. This is a landfill of garbage. And I just don't know how they even begin to correct this. It's terrible. Those are my answers to your question.
Well,
Okay. Chris?
Well, my answer to your question, they got blown up. I mean, the thing about it, when you trade a guy of Amari Cooper's, ability, you are basically saying, and I see a lot of this in baseball, you are basically saying that we're going to be sellers at the trade deadline, that we're selling off all our parts. We're going to start the whole thing anew. We'll dump a few games and whatnot. Maybe if we fall further enough, we can get a number one draft choice pick or something like that. They're tanking. They've given up on the season. They're quitting. They're quitting, and before your eyes, they're quitting right there before the eyes of your Browns fans. And that's why I say, as just as someone who's looking at the end of the AFC North and whatnot, I'm disappointed in that, because as much as the Browns are rivals of my Ravens and all that, I want to see a fight. I want to see a good fight. Win or lose, these cycles go up and down. Maybe this is a season for the Ravens to win, but I wanted to see this division be that true black and blue division that I think that it is. It's just that the Browns don't want to fight no more. It's like somehow I'm hearing Tina Turner, I don't care who's wrong or right.
No,
I don't really want to fight no more.
Oh, dang. And this is, Irie, you got to respect, right? Chris is on the East Coast, right? This is his perspective. You're not listening from my lips to your ears, a bemoaning, bitter Browns fan. It just is what it is. And God bless our wonderful partners in the Cleveland media. I just think sometimes there's a lack of neutrality. There's a lack of, listen, I know we're close and we're here, but we still need to be objective, like you get in a Philly market, right? Like you get in a New York market, and we fall in love with the concepts. We get so close to these players on a quasi personal level, we lose our objectivity. The Browns didn't really play their starters in preseason. The Browns started the year off terrible. The Browns were undisciplined, fumbles, turnovers, interceptions, incomplete passes. We got a quarterback in Deshaun, God bless him, that's running around like a Mexican jumping bean. This has been the story of the Browns in 2024.
Yeah. Reality is hard. Reality is hard to hit. It's hard to face as a fan. Fans can't face that reality. But in my opinion, and I'll say it again, trading Amari Cooper, that's a sign of, they're waving the white flag.
Yeah. Thank you all both for the terrific, lovely, valid points that I enjoyed, and I'm sure that the viewers here enjoyed too. And yeah, just kind of cap that off. Yeah, that's also what it felt like with the Cooper trade. It's like, wait, that's it? Like, that's the anticipated dream season that everybody was building up, and the state of this team right now, when you trade their best receiver, putting aside the performance, I'm not expecting the drop. I'm not excusing the drop passes. I'm not excusing any of that or his under the radar play at all this season. But you just traded away your best wide receiver. Now the top receiver, at least by what we've seen so far this season within cohesion, is going to be Jerry Jeudy, somebody who also doesn't really have as much experience as the WR1 right now. Then after him is Elijah Moore, and then Cedric Tillman, and you're still wondering who the next, young guy up and coming within the receiving room is, because David Bell is out, and he was their dependable guy. I can go on and on and on regarding the state of this offense, especially within the receiving corps in at that.
Yep.
And it looks like they're, just waving the white flag right now. And right now it's Tuesday. It is Tuesday night. Tomorrow, the pressers with Stefanski and Watson that we go into and listen and learn more of, and we really get a better feel for the locker room and what everything is, at that moment. But yeah, it looks as though they're just seeing what they can get right now to kind of build back up again.
Aimlessly floating in Lake Erie is really what you wanted to say, right, Tyree?
It's funny because like
floating in Lake Erie. I don't know if I want to.
It's crazy because I
do
was
anything
looking for
Lake Erie like that. Ooh.
I know, yeah, but like I was looking forward to this, and you got such great points. It's hard for me to even kind of like, even if I found the words to really articulate how I feel about this, I still would not have really found the words to articulate how I feel about this. It's just so riveting, so weird, just so stunning and shocking, like to just see him, go on and see the state of this team right now. It's just so wow. I'm so sorry for those that have really dealt with this franchise and when Hueza wished, especially within the 21st century right now. This is a bad football team, and it looks like they're just giving him right now on the season, especially after the trade with Amari. Such to see Amari go. He was an awesome player for this team, for professional. You didn't hear anything about him off the field or anything like that. He was just straight grind, straight about it, on the field. To me, at least, though. I don't know about for you two within the other side of things.
I mean, I know people are going to laugh at me, but if the organization decides to make Kevin Stefanski the scapegoat and Mr. Berry, I'd still say Mr. Bill Belichick is out there living La Vida Loca. I'm just saying he's out there, right?
Yeah.
Just saying.
But here's the thing about Bill Belichick, and I'm going to say this first.
I don't know.
I think the game might have whizzed by him. I think the players. I think the game might. I'm just saying. I mean, it's a great idea if he feels if they bring him in there. A lot of people say that, but I mean, one of my friends down in Wichita, Kansas, tells me that he doesn't like John Harbaugh bringing Belichick and everything. I don't know if that's going to be the panacea to the Browns' future. I just don't.
Well, let me clarify. I'm talking about on the GM level.
On the GM level, okay, GM level, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. When your advertisers start calling you, which I'm certain is happening, right? When you're looking at all of your off-field revenue attenuate because you have no product that people want to take time out of their life and put their hard-earned money behind. It'd be interesting to see if the Browns lose next week's game.
Yeah, well, you know what? Terrific segue right there after that we've gone through quite a bit and really delved through every angle possible within the situation of the Browns right now. Like I said, we've gone through every team prior, but the Browns, there are just so many layers to dive into within everything that's happened the last 72 hours and counting. So before going further into that, I think it's time to dive into the schedules and game predictions. The Baltimore Ravens travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers for an edition of Monday Night Football. I am going to say the Ravens take this. I understand the Buccaneers just had a riveting, high-scoring 51-27 win over New Orleans. I see a way in which Baltimore is able to adjust the way they did with Jaden Daniels this past Sunday and come out with the win. Thoughts?
Well, I'm going to say this about the Ravens. That's a potential trap game in my mind.
Because Chris off the hook. Chris just don't want to receive it. He just doesn't want to own it. The Ravens are balling. But I hear you.
But sometimes when I'm hoping that they're not smelling themselves too much and everything. But I think, but I'm maybe I'm saying that because I don't like game. I don't like when because the Ravens are rolling right now, and I think they're playing well. But I think they're playing well because Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. Lamar Jackson is playing at a level that I've quite not seen him play. I've never seen him so sure of breaking down defenses. So I think, and Todd Bowles is going to come at it. Todd Bowles is going to throw the kitchen sink at him. And I know this because Todd Bowles likes going after mobile quarterbacks. I mean, and I think that, that's going to be a thing. So I say the Ravens are going to win. I think the Ravens are going to win, but it's going to be another close game. And I think the Ravens win this game.
All right, Sapphire.
I'm taking the Ravens. If they just repeat what they did on Sunday, I think they're going to win away at the Bucs on Monday Night Football.
All right. We are some division homers already. On to the Steelers. They take on the Jets. All right. Sunday, not Monday, but Sunday Night Football this versus the New York Jets. And we spoke earlier regarding the trade for Devontae Adams. So that definitely adds a spark within the offensive sense for the Jets. It's going to be interesting to see how this Steelers defense, what they're known for, adjusts to this. I am going to give it to the Steelers. Without even knowing or caring what's going to happen offensively, I'm going to give it to the Steelers just off the strength of their defense alone and how they really go out there and are able to usually control the dynamics of the games. I'm going to give it to them. I don't know if it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't know if it's going to be high-scoring. I'm just going to give it to the Steelers to come out with the dub. Yeah. When the Fat Lady sings, it's them on top.
I think this is going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to TJ Watt laying hands on one Aaron Rodgers. For the same reason as you, Irie, I'm tilting towards the Steelers to win this game.
All right, Chris.
Well, I would say the same thing, although because I don't think Aaron Rodgers has much left in the tank, although having Devontae Adams will help him against Pittsburgh. But I think that the Jets have, there's some other internal dysfunction that they have with that team. And I do think at the end of the day, I think Pittsburgh wins that game. Wouldn't be surprised if the Jets, the Jets were close against Buffalo. They probably should have won that game, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh plus, I'm going to give the Jets the points, +4.
All right. And as you mentioned, that part regarding seeing Watt put his hands on Aaron Rodgers. J.J. Watt, by the way, has only had one career game so far in his career versus the Jets. That was a few years back. He only had, 2 solo tackles, 3 assisted tackles, and 1 sack, along with 1 from a recovery. So quite the domination, and I don't see why we don't expect it again on Sunday versus the Jets. And on to the very last game of this division. And thank you all for tuning in, joining. We appreciate your time listening to us. Please like, subscribe, follow the page, and everything else of that sort within social media if you've enjoyed this episode so far. On to our last prediction. We have an in-divisional matchup between the Browns and the Bengals. The Bengals will be traveling to Cleveland for a 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. This is quite the matchup. Paul Brown, I can only wonder what you're thinking about, upstairs right now, watching these two teams be at the bottom of the division. Not that I want to, but I feel like it's a no-brainer right now. I'm going to give it to the Bengals because the Browns don't give me much to imply of any confidence or with anything turning, at least with them what have, to where they can come out and win a game.
Yeah, I'm going to co-sign on that. I think this is going to be a real coming out party for the Bengals. And it's time for, Mr. Burrow to show he can beat the Browns.
You're right.
It's time.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this. These are those games where I think the Bengals will fix themselves, find themselves. If they can't beat the Browns, you know what? Stop playing tomorrow. Start playing after Sunday. Yeah. You can't beat the Browns, man. Come on.
Exactly.
I mean, if you with the guys they have in that receiving core and whatnot, I would be shocked. I'd be shocked, I say, if the Browns won that game. Because the Browns won that game, I might run up and down the street, in my pajamas or something. If they win that, if the Browns win that game, I'll eat a liverwurst sandwich, and I hate liver.
You gonna need some Frank's hot sauce with that, Chris?
Some Old Bay seasoning on that joint. I already know.
Yeah,
oh man,
hot sauce, Old Bay seasoning. Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Man, well, I love it, man. Well, real quick, before we get out of here, and before any other final thoughts, I do just want to give a quick shout out to Chris for the wonderful, lovely OG you are, and during my time back home, I really appreciate the hospitality and service that you brought for me and my family. You had me as your guest show. You had me as your guest on your radio show within WURD radio, and Chris does tune in every Saturday morning ahead of each Eagles game. So I appreciate you for that. I appreciate your hospitality while at the game. You know, helping me meet people and get in contact. OG Spivey, Gary Cobb, I salute you and I thank you. And I really appreciate everything you are. We love you and appreciate everything you are, and what you bring to for us, man. And we want you to know you're appreciative. Give you your flowers and love, and action is reciprocal.
Thank you so much, man. Enjoyed having you there, and I'm just glad to see. And by the way, it's a nice suit you have on there too. Yeah.
Thank you, man. And
you did look dapper. You did look very dapper.
Thank you. Special occasion,
Yeah. So in any event, no, it was good. It was good to have you down there. Get to know all these guys, man. I mean, I think you're going to be good at this. I think you're already good at it. Absolutely. And just keep doing your thing.
We love you. We love you, Irie. Do it, man. Represent.
Thank you. I got you guys. I got us. I appreciate that.
And I want to give a shout out to OG Spivey as well. I think we're following him on our X page. And NABJ member. You should expect to see him next year in Cleveland. Both of you.
I will be, if for nothing else. I want to try to get to the. There's a rumor that I don't know if this is true, but for nothing else, I want to get to I want to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I don't know. I would love to go with you guys. I've been there before. I covered Warren Moon and Reggie White when they were inducted. Warren Moon for being a quarterback and Reggie White for being a legend in Philly. But it's just that's a great place. But I heard it costs an arm and a leg to get in, so I'm gonna have to use my other thing like reporter.
We're gonna have to mooch.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do on that to make that work for sure. And do that. Any other final thoughts before we get out of here for the people tuning in regarding the division? Anything that they need Jesus, as you were mentioning, Sapphire. Any last thoughts before we get out of here, folks?
Listen, I'm a Browns fan. To my core, I'm a Browns fan. This is disgusting and a horrific season, but I'm a Browns fan. I'm going to ride and I'm going to die with the Cleveland Browns. So I want to say that. And then real quick, to the Guardians fans, we are the top of the 7th. We're down 2 runs, 2-4 versus the Yankees. Keep hope alive.
I hope the Guardians win that series because that's another team I hate is the Yankees. And my final thought to that is that I see another MVP year for Lamar Jackson.
Oh yeah. So
that's anyway. Good. Somebody has to take us out.
I'll do the honors. Thank you all again for tuning in. 3rd episode of Fear the North podcast, episode 3 that was within this live stream. Thank you all again for tuning in.
And tell them when we're going to be back, Irie.
We will be back every Tuesday night, 8:30 on the dot. Live streaming and then uploading our audio onto the podcast Fear the North. You'll find us on Spotify, that is, for now. And hopefully we'll be able to expand further on within our brand. Please follow, subscribe, all those good media terms that everybody likes to use at the beginning and end of their episodes. Do all that. You guys know better than me within the thumbs.
And we're gonna say 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time each Tuesday. We want to give 2 shout outs. One to Nick at Tremont Athletic Club. Nick, I'm feeling your pain. And secondly, to Every Angle, Elaine Manusakis, who was awesome enough to create our logo, Fear the North podcast for us. Thank you guys all for listening. Please share your feedback with us. We're also on X, Fear the North 4. We appreciate you for listening. Be well. Take care of yourselves this next week.
Salute. Fine, G.